In coping with the stresses of everyday life, this individual is likely to react with ineffective responses, such as hostile reactions toward others, self-blame, or escapist fantasies. He is more likely than most people to use humor and less likely to use faith in responding to threats, losses, and challenges. In addition, he is somewhat less likely to use positive thinking and direct action in dealing with problems. His general defensive style can be characterized as maladaptive and self-defeating.
A lot of good things have happened at the top of this year. Not only had I accomplished a huge goal last year, finishing the first draft of the first part of Sicko, but I also got a promotion at work. This allowed me to go from working part-time to full-time, an important step forward. Accomplishing the goal last year had me nearly ravenous to be able to make even more progress on Sicko this year. Not only did I have the desire, but with a year of writing under my belt, I felt I now had the skills and understanding required to make huge progress this year. Ben and I were also finishing a song we'd worked the entirety of 2025 on, and I was having visions of a music video forming in my head. I was doing good. Really good. I was accomplishing goals, writing more days of the week than not, continuing to keep up with cleaning and cooking at home, supporting Allie. I was receiving more responsibilities at work, and while that was scary, my bosses seemed happy with what I was doing there. I was even exercising nearly every morning, something that I had never done consistently, and working on improving my diet. I was hanging out with friends nearly once a week, continuing to keep up with the important relationships in my life. I was more consistent than I'd ever been. Don't get me wrong, I still wasted plenty of time. I gamed, I stared at YouTube. But I also was now basically doing everything that I'd always beat myself up for not doing. But I was also backsliding. I felt it happening slowly, then all at once. It started as a feeling of tiredness. That's not too unusual for me. But then it became so much more than that. Exhaustion. I felt a distinct desire to stay up later than was wise, and even though I fought that desire, the feeling terrified me. Because I knew the pattern all too well. Lack of sleep was a slippery slope that easily led to mental strain. But still, I didn't give up on my goals. I went to bed at a reasonable time, I worked out, I spent time with family and friends, I wrote and worked and lived. I did what I knew I should.
Excitement, stimulation, and thrills have great appeal to him, but he is less prone to experience feelings of joy and happiness than most men.
The exhaustion grew. Each night I went to bed and a familiar feeling took hold. Dread. Fear at what the next day brought. I can remember vividly this feeling overcoming me years ago, before I had gone to therapy. Uncertainty at what the future held, fear of the monotony of life, of working a job I hated every day until I died a meaningless death after a meaningless life, that I would create nothing of value, that hoping to create something of value was already a trap, for nothing could ever matter, that meaning was a lie, and seeking it a fool's errand. That was there. But this familiar feeling was tinged a new shade, for now I was living it. I had become the very thing I had feared. An office worker, a full-time employee, insurance and PTO, a supervisor. Never wanted any of this. I'd never wanted responsibilities. I didn't want to train people. I didn't want to be in charge. Don't get me wrong. It's not that the job is bad. It's a sharp contrast to how I felt every day serving customers at the UPS store, but it certainly isn't what I live for. It's a means to an end. Make money to survive, then go home and live with my family, friends, and interests. But suddenly those things I live for, weren't giving me back what I needed. One by one, each positive in my life became another weight on my shoulders. Don't miss game night with friends. You don't want to lose connection. Don't miss a weekday riding. You don't want to fall behind last year's word count. Don't miss a morning of exercise. You're already too out of shape. Games, reading, playing guitar, none of it felt fulfilling. I became frustrated with the people around me. I spoke out of line. Allie and I are driving back from a trip. She is talking about feeling anxious about some stuff at home, annoyed that she's bringing this up before I even get a few miles away from this vacation. I say, can't you just let yourself enjoy something good? The irony, of course, is that I was struggling to do the same thing. I apologize every half hour the rest of the drive home. It was around this time that the obvious truth suddenly reared its head. Like looking for the trees in the forest, I suddenly saw what had been clear. I was sinking back into old thought patterns. The good in life was no longer outweighing the bad in my head. I was losing touch with the world, with my loved ones. I was sinking inward.
Although his mood and satisfaction with various aspects of his life will vary with the circumstances, in the long run, this individual is likely to be more sensitive to life's problems than its rewards, and so be relatively unhappy.
In 2020, I took a class called Personality Theory. It was a class far too high for my level of education in psychology. Previous to this, the only psychology class I had taken was Psych 1010. This was a level 3000 class, which assumed you most likely knew how to do things like research and write an essay. I did not. At least, not very well. That being said, I still went forward and did my best in the class. As you might expect, the class was fully focused on different psychologists throughout history and their views and theories on personality. We also took a personality test chosen by the professor. It was a big deal. A professional feeling test, not something simple that you can find online like the Myers-Briggs test. For the results of this test, we would receive a report based on our answers written by a researcher, tailored specifically to our individual scores. As you've probably guessed, the things that have been being read out in this video are taken from my results on that test. The point of this video is not to discuss the validity of personality tests. It is also not even really to discuss personality at all. This video is purely about me. It's about what 2026 has been like so far and reflecting on where I came from in 2025. It is also, at least partially, about those results and what I think about them. The beginning of this year has been hard. I've been emotionally exhausted. I've failed to keep my temper and snapped at those I care about. It also, from an outside perspective, is perhaps the most driven, consistent, and intentional I've been in my whole life. It's difficult for me to reconcile those two things. That I could be doing nearly everything I've always felt like I should be doing, but feel miserable at the same time. So much of my internal dialogue when I was at my darkest moments circled around my lack of motivation and my seeming inability to make active choices. Now I had finally overcome those weaknesses, and yet I was falling back into the same old darkness. It was startling, all of those years ago, starting to go to therapy, not fully understanding why I felt so miserable all the time, learning to open up to others by making a podcast with a friend, because that was the only way I could think of to start opening up about my feelings. And then suddenly I'm in my very first romantic relationship, and I really need to be able to open up about those feelings. With that as a backdrop, it was really startling then to receive a 24-page report on my personality and have it say several times throughout that based on my answers, I probably would not be happy in life. I actually laughed when I first read it. I don't know if I can explain exactly why. I think maybe part of it was like, ha, right, yeah, look at me laugh at the very idea. But I think part of it was also, of course. What else would you expect? I don't believe any personality test can ever truly describe the depth of a single person. I do, however, think they can be somewhat instructive, at least on an individual level. It seems that perhaps the descriptions given in those results aren't completely inaccurate. Maybe I am the type of person who is so skeptical of any good thing that the moment something truly positive comes my way, I stress and worry about it. I stare at something good for so long that all I see in the end is the shadow it casts. I don't embrace it. I narrow my eyes and I seek out the flaws. And perhaps because of this, I truly am destined to be unhappy. Not because of any circumstances, but because of who I am at a core level. Perhaps I will never let myself enjoy something good. That's easy to say. But the same way I can scrutinize a positive thing, I can also scrutinize my own thoughts. Perhaps I do have tendencies that lean me toward unhappiness. Acknowledging that is not the end of the world. Because really, at the end of the day, I took that test 6 years ago. I am not the same as I was then. And I know I'm not the same because I've embraced a lot of good. I accepted the promotion. I worked hard to write, record, and release a full album. I've opened myself up to friends and family. That first romantic relationship has gone so much further than I could have ever guessed it would. I embrace good every day. She gets angry at me if I don't.
Although his mood and satisfaction with various aspects of his life will vary with the circumstances, in the long run, this individual is likely to be more sensitive to life's problems than its rewards, and so be relatively unhappy. Because he is open to experience, his moods may be more intense and varied than those of the average man. Because he is high in agreeableness, his morale and happiness may be increased by strong interpersonal bonds.
I've been thinking a lot about the myth of Icarus. He flew too close to the sun. We all know the story. Whenever I heard the story when I was younger, it was presented as a warning against hubris. Listen to your elders. Don't chase after things that are higher than you should reach. 2 versions of the story have been standing out to me recently. One is from the game Hades 2. In the game, we meet Icarus as a spirit. He's already dead. And he helps us along on our quest. He's described in the game as a free spirit. I wonder about that. Is he free because he's already dead, so no more harm can befall him? Maybe. Or maybe it's something deeper than that. Have his mistakes taught him something? Perhaps he now knows that he doesn't need to chase the sun. The light and warmth will reach him wherever he is anyway. The second version of Icarus I've thought a lot about is from a song called Icarus by Shadow Academy. What I like about this song is that while the lyrics speak of what seems like a destined fall, the music and the vocals sound triumphant, exuberant. The singer, while warning us of danger, also sounds ecstatic at the chance to fly, no matter the cost. You may be doomed to fall eventually, but at least for now, you get to soar. I feel embarrassed to even complain about these feelings, because at the end of the day, they are good things in my life, and I'm making progress. Isn't this just another example of boring whining? People have real problems, not the fake ones you make up to make your life feel more important. So many others would beg to be in your situation, and complaining about it is just ungrateful. You should just keep your mouth shut and be happy with what you have, for once. But also, any progress I've made has come with a cost. For example, I had to take a break from writing. I haven't written Sicko in 3 weeks. I had put too much pressure on myself and I easily cracked. Wax wings pre-softened before ever taking off. I think I relate so much to the song because of the dual nature between the music and the lyrics. The excitement and joy seem to shrug and say, who cares what happens? Let's just go fly. But the lyrics speak the truth. That ultimately, you can't fly forever. Life will change, whether you're ready or not. 2 deep fears I've had in various points in my life are that I will change or that I won't change. Currently, I'm a little scared of both. I don't want to lose the parts of me that I've learned to love, the creative, silly, weird parts. I'm scared they will get smothered by responsibility and dependability. However, I also want to continue to grow into a consistently motivated person. I wonder if I can truly have both, or if that's just flying up toward the sun. Here, I hope to be like the Hades 2 version of Icarus. Free, not because he has no responsibilities, but because he's learned from his own mistakes. He relies on who he is, while also accepting change as it comes. In any case, I am more than 24 pages of analysis from a bunch of answers I gave to a test. I am also more than the words on this page and said in this video. An individual's personality defines them, but it doesn't command them. Because we can become more than we are now. We can defeat our own tendencies and develop new aspects of our personality. Importantly, we also aren't completely alone. Who we are is shaped by who is around us. Both of the Icarus stories take time to highlight the importance of relying on others. No matter how introverted or antisocial we may be, we need others. I only made it through the darkness by opening myself up to those I love. I guess that's part of why I still make these update videos. It's a way for me to be vulnerable. Perhaps this will be a consistent pattern in my life. Perhaps a strange combination of nature and nurture have turned me into someone who is generally less happy than others. But I know 2 things. The first is that I'm learning. That the falls and perhaps even some strange form of hubris are teaching me how to overcome my own tendencies. I fell into a depressive spiral, fine. But I also recognized what was happening and adjusted, something I never would have known how to do 6 years ago. The second is that I know there are people around me to support me, and I can rely on them. I soar upon wings made of much greater material than wax. The wings that lift me up are my family and friends, and even if I soar too high and lose track of the ground and my wings fall off, at least I know they will fall with me until we are far enough down that they can lift me back up.
I've been racing nowhere, head down as fast as I can go, soaring over the last shores, and all the sensible voices I ignored. Now I got what I wanted. Doesn't matter if I can't see the ground. The more I try to grab and hold on, more everything just turns to clouds. Straight ahead doesn't fly far. The next step you take might leave a scar or change who you are. Icarus in the night stars. Every mountain looks small from afar.